Hello, everyone. I'm told the people in the room can hear me. Is that true? Can you indicate something, wave or excellent? And I can only really see the folks in front. So if you would do me a favor and move to the front row. Sorry to make you settle in and then move again. I know I'm the last. I know I'm the last talk of the day. Sorry about that. My understanding is that the mic is live and you can ask questions during the talk. Would somebody do me a favor and just go up and say hello to the microphone?
Hi.
Hi. Thanks. Perfect. Excellent. Sorry for our little tech check here. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Chris Sells, and I am a PM on the Flutter team. I'm largely responsible, although of course it is a team effort, for the end-to-end developer experience on the Flutter team. And today we're going to talk about a custom router that I built evenings and weekends. I don't get enough time coding in my day job, so I adopted this project for my own amusement. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And here's some things we're going to discuss. And so broadly, I built what is called the Go router, which is the name of the package on PubDev. How many folks have seen Go router? A couple folks. Okay. How many people have used navigation technologies of any kind inside Flutter? Okay, that's everyone. Good. And then how many people have used navigation 2, either in the raw or kind of with a package that they might have seen already online? Okay, so some folks. So the idea, let me back up. The idea with navigation 2, which was our first name for it, now we just call the router API, is that it is a much more full-featured router. Primarily, it enables multi-platform deep linking. So, for example, if you have a URL in the address bar of your Flutter web app, or if you've got an intent in your Android app or the equivalent of an iOS app, all of that comes in the same mechanism, in the same router. And so with the idea of the router API is that you get a great deal more functionality and flexibility, but we've also heard feedback that it can be hard to use. And so what I've done is I've built what's known as a custom router package. And there are a number of these. You might have heard of Auto Route or vRouter or Route Master or Beamer. Those are custom router packages that have been around for a longer time. Go router is relatively new. I've been working on it for 4 or 5 months now, but I only really launched it a few weeks ago, so it's still relatively new. But the whole point was that it's meant to be full featured, that it's meant to cover the set of things that a custom router package generally does, or more specifically, it's meant to cover the set of routing and navigation scenarios that you're going to have in your average Flutter app. And that's how I built it. And those things are, of course, you wanted the same code to work for mobile, web, and desktop. You want deep and dynamic linking. You want to support things like guards and redirection and parameters and subrouting and nested navigation. And here's a very distracting animation showing custom transitions. So those are the kinds of features that you want. And I built Go router to handle all of those with one other secret feature: ease of use. I wanted it to be as simple as possible and then get out of the way for your navigation needs. So why would I do such a thing? There are literally dozens of custom router packages already on PubDev. Why does the world need another one? The list I have on the right, Mike Reinstrom maintains. Every time he hears about a new Flutter navigation or Flutter router project, he puts it in this table, and he tracks the various characteristics, Go routers on there now, etc. But why would I build another one when there's already so many? I'm sure most of you are familiar with the XKCD comic. Hey, there's 14 standards and we need one unifying standard, and now we have 15 standards, right? So that's what I've kind of done here. And the reason I did that, there was two reasons for me. One, as I say, this is my own personal private coding time, evenings and weekends. I have my own little side projects that I needed navigation for. And none of the existing ones were quite right for me. They had either complexity that I didn't understand, or docs and samples that didn't meet my own hopes and dreams. Some of them had the features I want, some of them didn't have the features I want. And I wasn't able to find that sweet spot. And of course, what does any engineer do when they encounter such a thing? They have to go and build their own that is just right? That 15th standard. And I'm weak like any engineer, right? I couldn't help myself. So that's what I did. But I also had another reason for doing this, which is, of course, I'm responsible for the end-to-end developer experience for Flutter. And I looked at the custom routing. Most of the new ones I was looking at were based around Navigation 2 or the router API. And I wondered, were they not meeting my needs for features and ease of use because the authors just had a different point of view than I had? Or, and this was the thing I was worried about, is there some underlying problem with the router API that causes them to make compromises, that causes them to not have the ease of use as well as the full functionality that I really wanted from a router? So there's only one way to find that out, to answer that question, and that is to go and build a custom router. So the good news is the router API, while more complicated than we would like, is also very full-featured, and you can build a full-featured router that is also easy to use on top of it. It's got its rough edges like everything does, but largely it works very well. And so the result is Go router. Now, briefly, if you're familiar with Navigation 2 or the router API, you might have seen this diagram before. This is all the kind of state transition, the data flow diagram. I'm not going to spend any time on this except to say this is where the flexibility comes from and the complexity. Instead, and that resulted in new locations that are being generated by the app to do navigation. A location of where you go in the app comes in. That's phase one. And during that phase, a custom router, it's their job to build a stack of page builders. A page builder is, when it's time, you go through and build the stack of pages that go into whatever the location is. That's the route, right? Location equals stack of page builders. And then phase two is, when it's time, the router will say, okay, I need the actual stack of pages. And that stack of pages is bundled into something called a navigator. And the navigator has two things. It's got the stack of pages, right? So if there's a single top level route, then it's just a stack of one page. If there's multiple pages, that's where you get things like the back button automatically appears in the app bar, or the back button and for Android starts working. And so in those cases, when the back button is pressed, the second part of the navigator kicks in, which is the implementation of pop, which says, okay, the user's going back. What does that mean? That's up to you to decide what that means. What does back mean? And so has to build an implementation of that pop implementation. And so to do those things, to take in a location and build a list of page builders, and then later to build the pages, turns out to be, there's some nuance there and some flexibility you want. As one example, just because a location comes in doesn't mean that that's where you actually want users to go. There might be some redirection for some reason. Maybe they haven't logged in yet. Maybe they have logged in and they are trying to log in again and you don't want them to, right? So things like that. So that's kind of the things you have to do. The idea of GoRouter is it takes those core concepts and it turns it into a declarative data structure and some options when you construct a GoRouter. And so now I've talked and I've gone through several boring slides. Let's switch over to demo. So I've got a running Flutter app here. And I'd like to know if people are able to see both the text on Visual Studio, the simple thumbs up. Yes, okay. And then can they also read the text when it comes to the app? And I'm mostly looking for people in the cheap seats in the back. I think a couple of them have already started drinking. Can't tell. All right, I know it's the end of the day. Great. So here we don't have GoRouter. I've pulled it in as a package in the pub spec. I'm not using it at all. I've just got a standard Flutter application that has a single homepage that's showing some data. Okay. So how do I turn this into a GoRouter app? Well, the first thing I need is a router. Great. So I will import the library. Now I've got myself a router. A router needs two things. First, it needs a list of routes. And a route is just an instance of a go route with a path. This is the location. Where do you want people to be able to go in your app? And we're going to start simply. We're just going to start with the home page. And then phase two, we need a page builder. And a page builder, I've got Copilot running here. It's a little aggressive sometimes, but not too bad. A page builder takes in a build context and a state. And a state has various pieces of information. We'll talk about parameterized routes in a minute. And we'll use one part of this state object from the GoRouter in a second. But essentially what we want to do is we want to build a material page, because this is a material app. And a material page has two things in it. It's got a key. And this key is required by the underlying router API so that it can optimize how it builds things. You're going to be handing around stacks of these material pages, and it wants to only build these pages when it's appropriate to do so. And the key helps it understand when that is the case. And it turns out to be non-trivial to come up with unique keys and to manage the keys and all of that stuff. So what the GoRouter does is it knows how to build based on your route and where you are in the routing table. It knows how to create a unique key. So you can just use the one it provides and move on with your life. Of course, if you want to manage those keys, you absolutely can. And then the other thing a material page needs is a child. Fix the formatting. All right. So these are remember that I said there were two things. There's a path, a location. That's what the path is for. That's phase one. And then phase two, hey, I need to actually build the page to show it on the screen. And then GoRouter is complaining it needs something else. The something else it needs is an error page builder. And an error page builder is just, hey, something bad happened. And let me do a little bit of editor inheritance here. Something bad happened. Maybe the app or the user is attempting to navigate to a route that doesn't exist. Maybe one of the page builders failed. Maybe it's looking up some data and it failed and it threw an exception. Whatever the case is, whatever the error is, the error page builder will be called with that exception. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to do to build a router. Now to hook it up into your material app, and the same thing works for a Cupertino app, you simply call router, and now instead of providing a home page, you actually provide it two pieces of information. You provide a route information parser, which you now get from your new router instance, and you pass in a route delegate, which again you get from your new router, and that's it. So we've now turned our single page app into a single page app with many more lines of code, but now that it allows us to do multiple pages. So let's make sure that we're actually using the Go router here. If we go over to our app, it's automatically reloaded. I can click on one of these links, and the first thing it does is when I click on the link, it says, hey, page not found. Well, what's going on there? If I go to my home page, what I've got is a list view of all the people in the family, or all the families, the top level families. And I've got this line of code here. When somebody clicks on one of those families, what I do is I do context.go, and that's actually a shortcut for this. Go router of context.go something. Okay. So what I'm doing is when I'm using Go router, I'm actually stuffed the router that you create as part of app initialization into the widget hierarchy. And you can always find it by using this, this standard Flutter pattern, the of pattern. But I'm too lazy to type all that. So I used a Dart extension, and I just said context.go, which builds in the navigation for you. And here I'm saying, oh, when they click on a link, I want to create my own location based on the data in that link. So I want to now browse a specific family that I clicked on based on ID. And this is a very common pattern. And in fact, if you look up here, you can see the address bar is showing that exact same URI that I just generated, but it doesn't work because we haven't implemented that route. Now, this is known as a sub-route that we want to do here. This is not another top-level route, but we're saying under the home page, there's now a family page that knows how to show each kind of family. And at this point, we're doing two things. We're doing dynamic linking, which says that every object in our app has its own link, has its own URL. So /F2 is just a specific family, but we want it to be a pattern, right? Any family identifier can be used. That's dynamic linking. So to get another sub-route underneath the home page, we just create routes as a parameter for the Go route. And in this case, we want to say, hey, if we run into a family, we're using a pattern here that says, hey, /family, and then this colon and a name is just a pattern. And that pattern is useful because we're going to use it to pull out the specific data. And the data we're going to pull out is going to help us find the family. So we're going to say families.family. And we're going to pass in whatever that value is, whatever the unique identifier for the family is. And we're going to grab it from the state. And it has a map called params, which is a set of name value pairs. And it's just going to have already parsed out the data for us. And now we're going to use that to say, oh, I don't want the home page again. I want a family page. And I want to pass in the family we looked up. Now, if the user had entered in a family that didn't exist, this is going to fail, right? So let's try, notice that we've got hot reload in our router here going on, right? At this point, the link now works because we've just provided a route that knows how to handle that. So if we give it an ID, that doesn't exist, it's going to throw an exception, and that's going to end up in the error page. Okay, great. Now, if we're on a page, looking again at the family page, when we click on one of the families, as you might imagine, we want details about that specific person. And so now we have another subroute. We click on that. We haven't implemented that route yet. So now we know what to do. We want to create another subroute. But in this case, we don't want a family. Of course, we want a person. Now, it's common in these kind of subroute cases to be able to want, not just because we need to be able to look up a person, and a person is relative to a family, right? Each one of these IDs could be relative to a family. It might not be globally unique, in which case you need to be able to have the parameter from the parent subroute, which you get. It's passed in, GoRouter provides it for you. So now you can say, hey, my person that I want to look up is based on the family. It's relative to the family. And instead of showing a family page, I'm going to show a person page, which takes the family and the person. And so now I've, again, with hot reloading, I've got a brand new route that now works. And that's the details page. Notice the back button. That's what you get when you've got subroutes. Because when you are navigating to this, person page, it's actually the top of a stack of 3 pages. The home page, then the family page underneath that, and then the person page underneath that, which is a common pattern to be able to build up these stacks. And if I go back, I expect to end up on the family page. And if I go back from there, I expect to end up on the top level homepage again. And of course, by the time I do, the back button is gone. So that's how you set up these stacks of pages. Okay, so now you might have noticed that there's some sensitive information in here, right? We've got people, we've got their names, we've got their ages, which people might not want to share with just anyone. This is not the kind of information we want to make available publicly on the internet. Instead, we want to force somebody to log in. So we want another route for login. Now, with this point, we want login to be another top level route. You either go to the home page or all the sub pages if you're logged in, or if you're not logged in, we go to the top level route, which is login. So add another route. And the path will be login. It's a top level route. And the page builder will be to a login page. Now, the login page is a page I've already built here. And it does the kind of thing you expect it to do. I mean, it's very simplified, right? There's no username and password. There's no continue with Google. There's just one big button that says login on it. And then when that happens, we're gonna actually log the user in. Great. Well, to be able to log the user in, the login page needs passed into it something called login info. So let's create one of those. And again, this is a standard pattern too, which is, what is the currently logged in state of the user using this app? Are they logged in? Are they not logged in? Who are they? This is a pretty common pattern. So I've just implemented a very simple version of this that simply keeps track of whether they're logged in or not. And it does so with a change notifier. So that as the login state changes, whoever's listening will know. Okay, so I'm going to now pass in that login info. And at this point, if I go, I've got a brand new route. So if I go to that route, there it is. However, I don't have to go to that route. I can still browse the rest of the app, and that's not what you want, right? What you want is your users to be forced to log in, and we can do that with something called a guard. And the idea of a guard is it guards, data in your app or routes in your app that show sensitive data and requires somebody to be logged in before they can get to that data. The way GoRouter handles that is with something called a redirect. And a redirect is a function that checks the current state of the app and decides, hey, the user wants to go to this sensitive data, but they're not logged in. So I'm going to shove them over to the login page instead. Okay, so that's what a redirect is for. And so we're going to say, hey, if they're logged in, we'll check the login info. And if, so we need that piece of data. The other piece of data is, are they on their way to a login page? And we're checking, hey, are they on their way to the login page? And that we can just say by, hey, is the location they're going to match the path where we expect them to go? So if they're not logged in and they're not logging in, meaning they're not, on their way to the login page, we want to redirect them to the login page. Otherwise, if they are logged in, but they're trying to go to the login page, we don't want them to. We want them to go to the home page because that doesn't make any sense if they're already logged in. Otherwise, in any other case, no matter where else they're going in the app, go ahead and let them. We don't have any redirects for them. Go ahead and let them go to that app. That's called redirect. So now, no matter where we go, let's say we go to the home page. Oh, doesn't matter. Takes us to the login page. Let's say we go to a specific family page. Doesn't matter, right? We are now being forced to log in first. Now, when we press the login page, we are not logged in. We've flipped the bit, and we can test that by going to the home page, and it lets us. But that's lame. That's not what we want. What we want is, once they log in, to go to wherever the content is. So we can do two things. We can either go to the login screen and say, okay, they've logged in successfully. Now do context.go to the homepage. Or because the login information is a notifier, right? It lets people know when data changes. We can actually use that in the router to say, hey, when this changes, when this particular listenable changes, go ahead and refresh the route. Check to see if they should really be on this page or not. And so, for example, when I press at this point, because I'm listening to the changing login state of the user, when I press the login button, it automatically goes to the home page. And in fact, if I try to go to the login page, it won't let me go there because I've already logged in. And so now I can go around the app, and that's pretty great. But let's say I want to do some deep linking, right? Deep linking is the idea of building a dynamic link based on the IDs of the objects in your app, and then going to that page from outside the app. So if I just press enter, it's actually reloading the app and attempting to take me to that page. Notices I can't go there because I haven't logged in yet. But when I press login, lame, right? It takes me to the home page. That's not what I want. What I want is for it to remember where I was going. And I can get that by saying, hey, if we can actually pack on not just parameters, right, IDs of things in the path, but also query parameters. So we can say, hey, if they're not logged in, let me keep track of where they were going. And when they get to that login page, what I want to do is say, oh, hey, are they coming from somewhere? So what I'm going to do is look up a query param, which is the thing at the end, for the from parameter, right? So if this is passed in, I'm going to pull it out from here and remember it. So now if I go to that deep link, right, I'm 2 layers deep in, it still takes me to the home page, but it remembers where I was going. I press the login and it takes me there, and it takes me there in a deep way. Notice it builds. I just logged into the app, but I'm already 3 pages deep. And if I go back, right, that's where I end up, going up. And in fact, with GoRouter, and it's a common pattern, back means up. I'm going to go up the stack of pages. Okay. Now we have a problem, which is they've logged in. How do they log out? Well, at this point, you have choices, right? It's a common pattern to, have a reusable kind of thing that you wrap all your pages around that, provides an app bar and, provides actions. Hey, is the user logged in? Let them log out. Those kinds of things are pretty common. I'm too lazy for any of that. So I want to show off another fun feature of the GoRouter, which is something called Navigator Builder. And the idea of a Navigator Builder is it lets me say, hey, above the navigator, I want to wrap a thing, whatever that is, right? I want to, build something cool or fun or whatever. I just want to put something around my navigator. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to put a login button on every single page, no matter where they go in the app, that they can always press. And I'm sorry, not log in, log out. I want to put a log out button. So I'm going to check if they're not logged in. I don't want any of this. If they're not logged in, I just want to show the child, and the child is going to be the navigator handed to me by the GoRouter. It's already created the navigator. I can put it in my app wherever I want to. So what I'll do is I'll put it in there. But if the user is logged in, I want to show a logout button on every single page. So what I'll do is I'll build a stack, and the stack will have a set of children. And let me close this out. And it's going to have the navigator. Sorry. It's going to have the navigator here, the very first thing in the stack. And then above that, because as the Z order increases as you go down the set of children in the stack, above that, what I want is to put in a button. And that button is going to let me log out. And I don't want to use text here. I want to use an icon. And then when the user presses that button, I want them to be able to log out of the app. And we already know what happens when they log out. The path will be automatically refreshed. So let's put that on the bottom of the screen, on the bottom right hand of the screen. And I've got, let's see, stack. How many did I do here? This is always fun, the balancing part. I'm sure somebody in the audience already knows where my problem is. There, set of children, the stack. Got it. Okay. So the first thing that the app will do is log me in. And then notice in the bottom right here is this button, and it's always in the bottom right, no matter what I do with my window. And I can go page to page, wherever I want to go, and the logout button will always be here. Now, when I press the logout button, I've now updated the state of my app. I'm no longer logged in. And so because it's a refresh listenable, it will go and refresh the app. So there, that turns out, let me go back to my slides here. That turns out to be the bulk of, well, that turns out to be about half of what you can do with GoRouter. And that's how much time I have today. GoRouter is available. It's already in 2.x version. It's gotten a number of stars, surprising number of likes and stars already. Lots of contributors already. If you want to join in on GoRouter, please do. And now I'm going to open everything up for questions. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Hi, Chris. I do have a question. First off, that was a really cool demo. As someone who was around when Navigator 2.0 first came out and was confused by everything, it was really cool to see everything you've been able to do with it. The question I have is one of the criticisms of Flutter Web for a while has been that it's mostly just useful for PWAs. And one of the concerns was routing and deep linking and dynamic linking and everything. This mostly seems to solve all of that. So what do you see as a blocker, going forward into adopting more users into Flutter Web?
So I am glad that you think this solves the problems that folks are having with Navigator 2 and the Router API. That was certainly my goal. And to be clear, I showed it all today in the browser because it's really easy to see the links change, and you can go and add one and simulate errors and do deep linking, and it's all built in. All of this all works for Android and iOS and desktop, et cetera. All the same code, it all works across everything. In terms of the future of Flutter Web, well, the growth there, we've been very happy to see the growth. Now, Flutter Web, and we've been clear about this, is not for everyone. It's not for everything, right? It's not for building sites. It's for building apps. The kind of, rich experiences you get from, apps like Rive or, other kinds of things that provide interactivity like an app on your phone or on the desktop, and then the web becomes a way to distribute such a thing, as opposed to, a site, right, where you've got a bunch of flowy text and media and you want to select a bunch of things, and the place where we're starting with Flutter Web is very focused, and so to the degree that people want to build apps for the web, Flutter Web we think is a pretty fabulous fit. But that was a great question. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, I think we're right at time anyway. And I understand that I'm holding you back from whatever evening activities or parties or drinking or food. So thank you very much for showing up this afternoon, and have a great rest of your day.